Archie, thank you so much for joining us. Just to get us started, can you introduce yourself to us, please, and just fill us in if anyone's not too sure who you are, what you're kind of working on just now?
Sure. So I cover the Bundesliga for ESPN as a pitch side reporter, and I've been living in Germany since 2015 and covering German football. Uh, the top of it, at least, is where I get sent, and internationally as well. I have followed the German national team as a result, and you might have come across my work on BBC Radio 5 Live, more regularly on Guardian Football Weekly as well. And I think that covers it. So, yeah.
So, what has the mood been like in Germany? Obviously, building up to this one, I mean, it's so different asking something from a Germany perspective because they're hosting it. But what is the mood like going into this one?
So, the evolution of the mood around the German national team going into a tournament, I'd say before they won the World Cup in 2014, and for a few tournaments after that, there was always this panic, and things not going well, major injuries hitting, and being somewhat ragged going into the squad, and yet there was always this word that was used, which is Turniermannschaft, which is we're a tournament team, everything will come good, and usually it would come pretty good because Germany would reach at least the semi-finals. And then you've had what's happened since 2018, where it has been a string of disappointments, and things have also not looked great before the tournament. So Germany are now in a weird position where they're actually quite confident and are in a good place going into the tournament after everybody being pretty worried. I say everybody, it's not a uniform, everybody gets behind the national team here. There is, I think, more of a split and fractions between club football fans and international fans, and how that works. But the people who are interested in the national team are, I think, getting quietly optimistic about how this tournament could go. And the friendly against Ukraine was one of the most impressive nil-nil performances I've seen from a team in a pre-tournament friendly, to carry the intensity and fluidity that Germany did going forward against a team like Ukraine, who can play but chose to sit very deep, and soak up a lot of pressure. There were great signs for them with the way that Jamal Musiala and Florian Wirtz, the two creative heartbeats of this team, from Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen, respectively, two of the youngest members of the squad, but the ones who bring the flair, and the way that they were looking alongside the whole unit. Sure, Ukraine had chances and Manuel Neuer was called upon, but he did his job. So I can understand now why there is this renewed optimism since Julian Nagelsmann did his big changes in the winter.
Yeah, it was a case of like there was an air of optimism when Scotland drew Germany because they didn't have the best 2023 in
Mm.
terms of results, and then it was the March window.
Yeah.
Obviously, the win against France, win against Netherlands, and everyone went, "Oh, they've found their feet again." um, should we be scared? Are they back to the good Germany again?
Scared's a word, but I would be less optimistic of a result if I was a Scotland fan right now. I would say that if you played the game 10 times against Germany, your chances of winning it, I think, will be 2 out of 10 right now,
Take it.
because of which which is also just the nature of the way that underdogs against favorites can work sometimes. But there will be chances on the break. Germany and Julian Nagelsmann, it's been a problem for Germany for a while, and Julian Nagelsmann has brought a bit more vim about the way that they attack. that wasn't there before. I think that they were creating chances, but it was a pretty turgid watch. And now that he has shored things up a bit at the back, and they are playing with maybe slightly less risk than they were, but the risks are still there. The Ukraine friendly showed that. The games against the game against the Netherlands as well, who and Netherlands did not play well, and yet they still had a couple of really good chances. And I think it's going to be appreciating that fact from a Scotland point of view of being like, it's not about how well we play, how easy on the eye we are. It's how about how effective we are, because that is the one point where Germany are maybe lacking a bit. There, they did have loads of chances against Ukraine, a lot of half chances maybe because of the margins that they had to hit and they couldn't take them. But the way that Nagelsmann has reshaped the squad, um, kicking out some very experienced professionals like Leon Goretzka, who has been there for years, having been a part of the Bayern squad, and there's no space for him in midfield. Bringing back Tony Kroos was a risk. Letting go of Mats Hummels, I think, has been proven to be a good decision no matter what happens because of the noises that he's made in the media before a Champions League final and showing that he puts himself ahead of the team. That's exactly the kind of thing they don't want. And that they have this new, fresher mentality with a good block of Stuttgart players who were one of the surprise teams in the Bundesliga. I say the surprise. There was a team that went unbeaten domestically the whole season in Bayer Leverkusen. But you've got two players from them, for example, in Robert Andrich and Jonathan Tah, who, unlike Florian Wirtz, you wouldn't have picked them to be starters at this tournament for Germany before the season began. And I think that is something that is sparking optimism about how Germany might do. To come back to your original question, a little scared. A little scared.
On the squad front, then, I mean, it was a very kind of settled 27-man squad that was announced. No real, like, there's going to be one obviously gets dropped, but who should Scotland be looking out for here? Because when we saw Tony Kroos saying he was going to retire, it was immediate excitement. Then he said after the Euros. Okay, calm down, calm down. But who do you think? Is it the obvious big names are the main threats, or is there any that are kind of, as you're talking about from Leverkusen, are there any there that maybe aren't the big names that we know around the world that we should be kind of looking out for?
Yeah, if we go less obvious, you've got Maximilian Mittelstädt at left back, who was relegated with Hertha Berlin in 2023, moved to Stuttgart for around €500,000, didn't start the first few games of the season and was on nobody's radar, and was then being called when he was called up to the squad by Julian Nagelsmann in March as one of the top 5 left backs in the world. I think that's definitely meant in an attacking sense. Defensively, he can be susceptible, but that's the point of this Germany squad is they play on the front foot and a positive. Even Maximilian Bayer, who has been seen as being the number one candidate to be struck off the list, a young Hoffenheim forward, he came on against Ukraine and looked excellent. And you're thinking, is there anybody here who is not going to be able to shine right now? That there's a lot being made of how good the mood is in the squad, but tournaments are also the same team doesn't play 90 minutes every game, and it is notoriously difficult to play well in every game. You look at the teams who win big tournaments. I think of Spain in 2010, with perhaps the most world-conquering team of all time, and you've got that defeat to Switzerland at the start of the tournament. Germany talk about the very near miss of a win they had if that makes sense, against Algeria in the 2014 World Cup. There are moments which are going to be sticky. And I think that's from a Scotland point of view is maybe if I was trying to initiate some optimism, maybe thinking, can we get that moment ourselves against them? There, I'm just trying to think of other players. Robert Andrich is maybe some. I mentioned him earlier, but he's got this reputation of being the bodyguard as they describe him in English because Germans have a weird fetish for talking about dropping in English words a lot of the time. And he's seen as being this tough guy, which I generally think is a kind of a tabloid obsession because he's got tattoos and has a long beard, so you know you're really tough. But he does have a streak on the pitch for sure. But I think as much as any other player, and it's more I think because he's been renowned for his tackling over his passing ability, and yet with Bayer Leverkusen this season, he's been really good. But he's a very important element to this team because, as you mentioned in your question, the players you've heard of, Gundogan, Havertz, Musiala, Wirtz, Kroos, I think they are all household names. Wirtz will become one. But Andrich, who has also scored quite a few goals from distance this season, he's the key element that Hansi Flick did not get into the German national team, which is having somebody who is more patient to sit and in that midfield and do the jobs that need to be done rather than being able to do the flashy stuff. And instead, Joshua Kimmich has gone to right back. He's looked okay there, not great, I think. So yeah, if you can find some sort of Ikechi Anya, sorry, there we go. Figure. Because I remember, for some reason, some things stay in my mind. I remember him slotting away a pretty decent one-on-one against Manuel Neuer a few years ago. And
Hard to forget it.
not everyone scores a one-on-one against Manuel Neuer. So yeah. But otherwise, um, yeah, they're quite good.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, opening the competition the first night in Munich, it's going to be good as well because the first night, I think it's just going to be Scotland and Germany fans that are going to be in Munich at that point for that game. What are the fans like then? Because what can the Tartan Army expect mixing with these German fans on their own soil?
It's difficult to say what you'll expect because again, there's such a departure. I think if I compare it to what I know, which is England fans, gulp, then then there's not too great a departure from English club fans, I think, to England international fans in the way that they behave. And to nail down what a Germany fan is like that goes to games, there's this internal split of that they are that the German FA has made supporting Germany just be this kind of over the top commercial experience that club fans don't really want to be a part of. And one of the things that really makes German football what it is the fan scene led by the ultras and what you walk into in every stadium where you have this patchwork of fan clubs and you when you see their flags and you feel like you're going into somebody's living room, and that's removed from an international tournament like this. So it will be, I think, what's the most diplomatic way of putting it? I think that the kind of Germany fans that you'll meet would be probably less partisan and a little bit more laid back than say some of the club fans. But then again, if they were visiting on a club level, then providing they hung out in the right places, then I wouldn't expect exactly a frosty welcome either. So yeah, it's difficult to pin down as well because the way that the various areas of Germany that they'll be visiting are. I expect them to interact with the national team differently. Going to Munich, I mean, a lot of the rest of Germany sees Munich as I was trained by my friends who are from North Rhine-Westphalia, which is in the northwest here, of saying Munich, and then they'd kind of turn their nose up and do this thing with their nose, being like, "Oh yeah, they're snooty," but I. I get on with people from Munich. Maybe that says more than me, more about me. I mean, there's nowhere in Germany that I would say where all those stereotypes are really fulfilled. But Munich is definitely a more well-to-do city. It is one of the nicest cities to hang out in as a tourist. And if you are from there as well, so yeah, I'll be interested how that goes down compared to say Cologne, the city I live in, which is known for being a little bit more laid back in its approach. And there I think you'll hang out more with Cologne fans, who whether they'll be national team fans is a good question, and that's the biggest thing. I just don't know how many of the how many Germans will be swept up in it. I expect a lot, but there's this big talk about whether it'll be a summer fairy tale again, because that was what it was called in 2006 when the World Cup was here. And after it, there was a famous documentary made about it, and it talked about, I think, just this idea of people being able to be proud to be German for the first time since reunification, and really being able to wave the flag and being okay with that. And lots has happened in Germany since then. The rise of the far right, for example, and there are European elections taking place just before the tournament. So it's a very politically sensitive time here right now. That's a very, very long answer to what you asked, but I hope it's informative in some
That
way.
that is quite interesting, because I was going to go on to talk about what it was like in 2006 compared to this year. Like, were you there in 2006?
No, I was 14.
Like, I
I
mean,
was 14 and I was still very much a child of English football.
I remember my friend traveling. She interrailed around Europe that year, and I remember
Wow.
her saying that
Okay.
I can't remember which German city it was, but she walked down like the main street and they had like TVs on every corner, and
Yeah.
she talked about how she just saw so many different nationalities and colour, and it kind of opened my eyes up and blew my mind a bit, because I was like, oh, I just want that. I just want to go to that, and in any country, in any tournament. But the fact
Yeah.
that now we're getting to do that in Germany makes it even more exciting. I think everyone's really looking forward to this, because it's like the last real tournament in a while, and also the first one in a while as well, after Qatar, after the 2020 fiasco. Just
Yeah.
getting that, like, a country that just knows how to do football, does good food, does good beer, does good football. It feels like the full package, doesn't it?
It's the first one probably since France in 2016. But then again, from your perspective, does the tournament count if Scotland weren't there?
We're used to it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I can see those expectations. Living here, I would say be careful of leaning too far on German transport and how reliable you think that is. Don't. Be very, very careful with what you do there, particularly with the trains. Those trains have disappointed me more than they have um, been able to fulfill my wishes. But I think from an organizational point of view, I'd expect the majority to have a great time. And I think for that you do need Germany to go a certain distance in the tournament as well. So it depends if you're willing to give up the points in the first game to then win in the second and third game, I guess.
We will take anything to squeak through. Absolutely anything. Happy for Germany to go through with us as well.
Sure.
What's the fans then? What's their expectation? Like, what's success for the German fans this year? How far do you think they can go?
I think if they reach the quarterfinals, at least, that would be seen as a success after what has been happening and also it is about how this team plays and whether they are able to excite people. Those are big factors, and getting people back on side to just watching the national team, because that's been the big challenge.
And yourself, will you split loyalties between England and Germany?
I, I'd say so. I'd say so. Yeah, living abroad, I have to say I have really understood a lot more why people hate England. It is really come home to me. So when England do go out of the tournament, because I'm not quite as confident as um some of my fellow Englishmen and women, I I kind of get the other side of people just being like, this is so funny. No, so yeah, I can't describe. I like it when England win, but I understand why everybody doesn't like us, because we can be pretty insufferable. And I particularly in this tournament, given the power of what football can do, I would like to see Germany go as far as possible. You know what? I'd even don't don't tell too many people this, but I'd even like to see Germany go further than England in this one.
Both.
Mm.
I'll take that.
My
Absolutely.
mates are going to kill me. Um,
And just finally, like, what are you going to be there during a tournament? What are you going to be doing during it? What, are you working at it, going as a fan?
I will be giving analysis on ESPN FC's shows. I will be doing a bit of radio as well, um, and I've also got some tickets to go see some games myself, which I'm just really looking forward to because look, working on football is a lot of fun, but watching it is also not bad, as I knew before and still do. So going to soak up a bit of Hungary, Switzerland as well on the Saturday after Germany, Scotland, or indeed, um, I am going to watch two England games to see, it's people watching as much as anything as well. You know, so yeah, let's see how that goes.